This is kind of an important one. Remove toxic or chemical-based air fresheners. I always feel like I get on a bit of a soapbox on this one because those Glade plug-in or whatever, that's just one of the brands, but those plug-in air fresheners, I can't even explain how terribly toxic those are. I cringe, just absolutely cringe when I go into a place or a business. A lot of apartment homes have them, like if you're visiting a friend, or restaurants sometimes use them, or businesses. They're so toxic. They're literally endocrine disruptors. Are you struggling with low energy, weight gain, hormonal imbalances, or heavy metal and mold toxicity? Do you want to learn more about anti-aging tips and creating more longevity in your life? Well, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Jen Heller, a wellness educator, infrared sauna expert, and home health consultant. In this podcast, Homes That Heal, I will teach you how to transform your home into a health and wellness sanctuary. Your health is your wealth, and I believe that your home should be your sanctuary space, loaded with the tools you need to thrive in your life, not just survive. If you want to feel fantastic and transform your life and home, grab a pen, let's dive in and create a home that heals. Hey friends, Jen here. Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to Homes That Heal. So before we get into the first of a few home wellness checklists, I just want to remind you that this is something that is kind of the staple and the core of the Homes That Heal brand and the Homes That Heal show. And really where it kind of was born from was I took a look at how I transformed my home, or our home, I should say. Sorry, Mark. Our home into a more of a harmonious place for healing, and kind of put all the nuggets into categories and laid it all out, because over the years I've been asked, Jen, how did you do this? Or where do I find this? And where do I even start? And I think that goes with just about anything, is whether you're losing weight or you're changing jobs or you're making interior design changes or doing a complete overhaul on your life or your lifestyle. Sometimes it seems overwhelming as to where you start. So the home wellness checklist is basically the roadmap and the guide, and it's really simple because it's categorized and you can kind of just check things off actually as you go. So today we are going to look at page 1. So if you haven't done so already, please hop on over to jenhellerlifestyle.com, download your free checklist, and you can follow along. This is also really fun for you to share with other people who might be feeling lost a little bit, or if they're looking for some ideas on ways to spice and spruce up their life. It's spring, and this is the best time to kind of ebb and flow into decluttering. And so actually today we're going to talk about the first thing on the list is declutter and organize. I am a firm believer that if you want to recreate something, you need to declutter it first. You need to get out the toxic garbage. You need to donate to Goodwill, have a garage sale, donate to the neighbors, throw it away, whatever you need to do to clear the clutter. So removing unnecessary items, that's key, because I just don't think you can transform and bring in any kind of new energy or create some new energy if you have dead energy hanging out in the space. So removing unnecessary items. As it relates to cleaning up the closets, obviously sell, donate, throw things away. But I have a rule of thumb, and I have to be full disclosure, admit, I don't always abide by this. There are definitely things in my closet right now that probably don't fall into this category. However, it's definitely on my list here over the next few, I would say few weeks probably. I'll be tackling my own closet. And the rule is if you haven't worn it for at least a year, then you probably should donate it. Now, dresses and maybe formal wear and different things, that kind of has its own exception, but tops and different things, if you haven't worn them and you're kind of passing by them all the time, like why even have them? Free up some space on the hanger so that you can either get some new fun stuff or it's just not collecting dust. So clean out the closets. And then one of the other things I like is to just create a dedicated space for relaxation and wellness activities. And that kind of just goes along with like decluttering, whether it be a room or a corner or just creating like a reading space in a nook somewhere. Decluttering out, maybe you've got a pile of stuff in a corner, maybe you got things sitting on top of a tabletop, or maybe you've got a chair that's becoming the catch-all. Like declutter that and recreate that space. That always feels good. So that is step 1, or that is section number 1. Section number 2, improve air quality. This is really important. I mentioned this last week on the show as the last but not least. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into this in a few weeks, actually, because we installed a home system that I'm really excited to talk about, but I'm not quite ready to share it just yet because I'm still in the infancy stage and working out a few details on it. However, air quality is really important because if you're battling mold or you're battling some sort of environmental toxin, or you're dealing with something that is causing health issues, oftentimes people try to combat symptoms or try to heal, they try to do something, and they haven't cleaned up the mess. They haven't cleaned up the root cause. So you can't sit in a puddle of muddy water and expect to stay clean. It just doesn't work. So cleaning up the air first and then coming back through and mopping things up is the most important. So if you have a known issue like a mold issue, obviously that's remediation, that's bringing in some environmental professionals. But aside from that, air purifiers can be helpful, like the air doctor, things like that. Some are better than others. I am of the opinion that most of those air purification systems, just like anything else, most of them are just gimmick. Not too many of them actually work. So you really want to do your due diligence on those. I have a couple of my favorites that I think are better quality, but really other ways that you can manage the air in your space, making sure that you're changing your air filters, cleaning out your vents. We're actually having duct cleaning done at our house tomorrow. We have a local service coming tomorrow to completely clean out all the ducts in our entire house and just rid everything that can get cluttered up in that. And so that's one of the steps of this process that we're doing to like really purify the air in the house. So that's a good rule to do. I mean, I guess I don't know how often a person should do that, but every few years, I think would be smart, is just to clean those out. And then also just things that you can do to bring in is like some indoor plants. There are a handful of really good plants, like spider plants, and there's certain plants that are really good for oxygenation of the air. We have to be really careful. We have cats, and so often a lot of plants are poisonous or deadly or toxic for cats and critters. So always be mindful to what is good for your fur babies. And then this is kind of an important one. Remove toxic or chemical-based air fresheners. I always feel like I get on a bit of a soapbox on this one because those Glade plug-in or whatever, that's just one of the brands, but those plug-in air fresheners, I can't even explain how terribly toxic those are. I cringe, just absolutely cringe when I go into a place or a business. A lot of apartment homes have them, like if you're visiting a friend, or restaurants sometimes use them, or businesses. They're so toxic. They're literally endocrine disruptors. They have chemicals in them that are horrible for our lungs, horrible for our entire cellular system. So if you have those in your home, you're going to want to throw those out. If you have those in your place of business or where you work, I would find every way possible to get those out. People don't realize how terribly toxic and unhealthy those are. So get rid of those things, throw them in the trash. Now, there are some better options, like the good old Scentsy pots, some of those things that are using I don't even know if Scentsy is non-toxic, to be quite honest. That's just the first brand that just came to my mind. But I'm thinking of like non-toxic oils or things that you could plug in, essential oils, whatever, if they're pure organic. Go back to basics if you want to create a scent in your home, but definitely throw those toxic chemicals. If it's sitting on a shelf in a store and it's been there forever, it's toxic. That's one of my rules. And then, of course, we're moving into spring, but opening your windows for ventilation, just getting some fresh air in, just letting some of the stagnant air out. So that's a good way just to move some air, get the fans rolling. We have some ceiling fans in our gray room, and they're actually just always on low. They're always just circulating, just to kind of circulate the air. So air quality, like I said, I'm going to deep dive into this and host a whole show on this here in the coming weeks and kind of walk through the system that we have in our home and then just deep dive further into how you can find out if you have air quality issues, some good resources for experts in this field, as well as different types of, not just the air fresheners, but different types of products, things in your home that could be bringing in environmental toxins. So we will circle back on that. Section 3 is enhanced water quality. So our bodies are about 70% water, and so we need to replenish that every day. And so we want to make sure that it's pure. Well, we moved to our new home a few years ago. We spent about 3, 4 months just overhauling everything before we even moved in. And one of those things was installing one of the most aggressive water filtration systems I've ever seen, as well as I know Mark was like, holy cow, this thing's overkill. But what an investment it was at the time. We have well water. We live in the country, but it has paid off tenfold. We have a system, so the whole house is very clean, but we also have some specific drinking fountains that are actually RO, but also have pH balance so that they're balanced properly. And it just makes a world of difference. If you're in the city, I highly recommend digging into this. Every city is different, but there's definitely a lot of conversation going on about fluoride and some different chemicals inside city water. So anytime that you can find some outsourcing spring water, not a huge fan of a bunch of bottled water because of the BPA and who knows how long it's actually been sitting in those bottles and where it actually came from and some of those sources. But oftentimes that can be much better than city water. So be mindful of your water. We also had kind of going back to, I can't remember which episode it was. Gosh, I think it was last summer when I had Susanna Hake on the podcast. She shared about hydrogen water and some different ways that you can really elevate and amplify your water. She had cancer and she kind of went into a self-discovery path of everything she was putting in her body, everything from food to water, some supplements. She was using sauna. She was using oxygen therapy. She was using cold therapy, IV drips, like threw everything at it. But one of the most important pieces was the water. So just really important that we're replenishing our bodies with good hydrogen. And then, of course, if you have these filtration systems, just make sure you're following regular maintenance. And then I think I already focused on the clean drinking water. I got on that tangent before I even saw that it was number 3. So that is a wrap on page 1 of the home checklist. We'll definitely be, like I said, deep diving a little bit. Going to be bringing on a few guests on the show in the coming months in some of these topics to dig a little bit deeper in them. This is just kind of to whet your appetite a little bit about some of the things that we're going to discuss in the coming months. I just wanted to say a huge shout out and gratitude for everybody. Last week's show, I kind of had a vulnerable share about an event that I was at and shared a talk with a group. Just kind of got real and raw about my weight and obesity and living with an alcoholic and dealing with a failed marriage and having a stroke and being paralyzed from that and running a business, all the ups and downs and the challenges of what that was. I shared that last week on the show and I've had just a massive amount of outpouring of love and virtual hugs from people. Also, a lot of people sharing that it helped them. It really resonated with them and inspired them to take some action in their own health and well-being, as well as sharing it with other friends and family members that may need some help. So it's not always just about us. It's also looking around where we could potentially extend a hand if we see somebody else is struggling or maybe needs us to light their candles. So again, just want to say thank you for everyone for tuning into the show and listening and sharing. I'm super grateful for you. I'm grateful for this show and this platform to be able to share this information. And again, if you haven't already done so, hop on over to the jenhellerlifestyle.com website and download your free checklist. And I'll be bringing you page 2 and a few more topics next week. So we'll see you then. Okay, friends and fellow wellness warriors, thanks for tuning in today. If this show was helpful and inspired you, please head over to Apple or Spotify to rate, review, subscribe, and follow us, as well as share it with your friends and family. It's a fantastic way to grow the show, expand my reach, and teach others how to create a vibrant life they love. If you're ready to invest in your health and purchase a Clear Light sauna, hop on over to jenhellerlifestyle.com and send me a note. Thanks again for tuning in. I love you. I'm grateful for you. And I thank you so much for your support. You are the reason I do this work. You are the reason I do this show. And you are the reason I get up every single day with a burning desire in my soul. Cheers to your health and happiness, my friends. We'll see you next week. This podcast is for general information purposes only and is not intended to be substituted for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you think you have a medical condition, consult your licensed physician.